Hi, and welcome to Hack Central Tutorials. Today I will explain how to write the most effective resume that will get you noticed. But before we begin, subscribe to this channel by clicking that big red button or by clicking the logo here at the bottom of your screen. Also, be sure to click that bell icon so you receive notifications whenever we post a new video. Now let's get started. Before I begin, I just would like to mention that there are several types of resumes. There are lots of resume templates out there, but these two that I'm going to show you today was taken from Canva.com. So I did not create these. However, there are persons who still use the block method. And the block method I would recommend for someone who does not have a lot of experience, because you don't have much to write anyway. You might just have education or a few jobs here and there, but it's not substantial. Another way is if you're doing a complete resume of everything that you've ever done, which would probably take up several pages if you've worked for many years. However, if you're looking for a job, I would assume that it's a very specific post. So I would not use a general resume to apply to those posts. I would use a very narrow, very focused resume. And the reason for this is because recruiters are not going to spend a lot of time looking on your resume. They are just going to spend maybe a minute and a half just scanning through, and they're going to look for the most important information that means the most to them. And that is your work experience first, and then your education. Like precisely in that order. Now, while you can put work experience or qualifications, you can swap them around. You can put qualifications first, then work experience. It's recommended that if you do have work experience, that you put it first, and especially if it applies to the job, and qualifications after, because they are generally more interested in work experience. However, if you do have the qualifications for the job but not the specific work experience, then I'd recommend putting qualifications on top so that they see that first, and then when they get down to the work experience and they realize, well, that they haven't gotten much experience here, and then they make a decision. But I'm going to take you step by step through the typical resume. It doesn't matter which template you use, the principles are the same. So the two resumes we're going to use today, one is from Rosa and the other Caitlin. Both are social media marketers, and they are looking for a position of social media manager. Rosa is an intern. She's looking for an internship, so she's either a graduate or in university. And Caitlin has some time working in marketing. We're going to see how each person did their resume differently. Now, first thing I'd like to say is that your first page, and I would recommend sticking to 2 pages, because then otherwise it wouldn't be very focused. But certainly it wouldn't pass 3. I mean, I, as a recruiter myself, when I get 5-page and 7-page resumes, I don't read all of that. I really only read that like if after we have hired the person, not even after we shortlisted them. But I've rarely shortlisted resumes that are that long. It's very unusual, and it's usually when we're doing a panel interview that those people would get chosen. But usually it's tedious, and a lot of times the jobs and the information that's given is not relevant to the post, so it's annoying to skim through, and sometimes some persons are not very patient with that. So don't try not to pass page 2, but if you do, definitely do not pass page 3. So you want an impressive first page regardless, and you can get this from various templates. Canva actually allows you to add a second page, so that's good. Your page must be clear and attractive and compelling, and also scannable. So as you can see, it's very clear that you have the different sections of the resume. You got professional skills, personal skills, contact information, work experience, education, awards, and same with Rosa. So how to get in touch with her, work experience, qualifications, specializations, her skills, and she speaks a lot of languages, so she has added languages as a category. But very clear, very scannable. And you notice that in the two places, both places have color codes. So the colors help bring out different areas of your resume. Very, very useful, and the headings are obvious. They are all caps for the job title, and the name of the company, the dates are very clear, as well as the accomplishments that you've achieved at each job, and same for education. It's very clear, very attractive, and scannable, and that's very important. Now, when we're starting a resume, it makes no sense at all to write CV or resume or curriculum vitae on top of your resume. We already know it's a resume based on how it looks, so it's not necessary. What is necessary is your name. And if you have a specialization like this person does, social media manager, then you can also write that specialization so that they know that this is your specialty up front and it's relevant to the post that you're applying for. This title here can also be the post that you're applying for. So you don't have to say, I would like to apply for the post. You've already said that in your cover letter. On your resume, you can just add that. And then it helps as well when you're organizing your resume, because then you know what each resume title is. Because if you are in the working world for about 10 years, you've had so much experience that you would probably have changed careers once or twice and worked in different fields or industries. And so differentiating your resume according to industry is quite useful. And another reason why this is helpful too is that it's very, very, very important that you write the position that you're applying to. Don't just go for the general vacancy that's in your organization. Absolutely not. I have disregarded resumes as a recruiter because I did not know what these people were applying for. Even with your qualifications, a lot of times it's not obvious, especially if you don't have a position available for that. So please, if you're not putting it on your resume, do mention it in your cover letter, the post that you're applying for. You don't want to get your resume tossed in a bin just on a technicality of not knowing the job that you're applying for. Okay, so now I want to talk about the first section, which is about, and this resume you can see it's divided into two columns. We're going to work first with the major column, which is this section, and then move on to the border column. You want to have a clear objective or about. Anything cliche like seeking a career that allows me to effectively apply my skills and provides me at the same time with learning improvement and future growth. I don't recommend that because it's very cliche, nobody's reading it and nobody cares, and it does not apply to the position that you're applying for. It does not show up your skills, your abilities, it shows nothing. So it's a waste of space on something that already has so little space. So you want to make each sentence count. If you don't have a clear objective, don't add it. Now, in Caitlin's case, she had an about section. I'm an experienced social media manager seeking a full-time position in the field of social media and marketing communications, where I can apply my knowledge and skills for continuous improvement. That is not bad. Rosa decided she wanted to label hers professional goals. I aim to attain an engaging internship position in the field of social media management. I hope to create online campaigns to inspire the youth. That is very clear objective. Another thing that you can use instead of professional goals or about, you could use a career summary or a summary of skills. And a good career summary would look like, I hold a degree in computer science from the University of Texas. I have a total experience of 5 years working as a programmer for many companies, including Macintosh and Dell. That is a good career example. It shows qualifications, years of experience, which is very important. So in 3 lines, 2 or 3 lines, you've already gotten the attention of the recruiter and they're interested in knowing more about you. So you're looking now to work experience. What sort of experience have you had? You want to use your strongest selling points. I would limit your work experience to only the jobs that are relevant, and also the most relevant 3 maximum. Even if you had 5 jobs that you did the same thing for, as I said, try not to get over into page 2. When you're going into page 2, there are other things that you'd want to put on page 2. But on page 1, you want education and experience on the same page. So try to stick to at maximum 3 work experience. So in Caitlin's case, she has 2. Social media producer. She worked at Red Media Company, February 2013 to December 2014. And then she was a communications intern before. So she's reasonably young in the profession. She's just had 2 years experience working in social media, which is perhaps a lot considering the field. And here she developed a social media strategy and spearheaded a viral campaign. So those were her best achievements, and you want to use your best achievements to stand out. So if you achieved like 10, 15 different achievements in a post because you've been there for a while, like maybe 3-5 years, you don't want to put all 5-10 different things. And I would not want to list tasks that you did as well. It takes up too much space. And I mean, if you are a cashier, everybody knows that you can use a cash register and count money. So you don't have to put tasks. Put instead achievements. I wouldn't go over 3 again because of space. And you'd use the most impressive achievements that you have done in that time. Of course, you can have space in your cover letter to add additional achievements, and you can talk about even more achievements when you get to the interview. But for your resume, you want to keep it as concise as possible. Another format that you can use instead of work experience is to have a section called competencies. If you have worked in different fields and have gained different skills, like for example, if you were a cashier, a mechanic, and a nurse, strange but true, you can list skills that are probably valuable to the post that you're applying for. You don't want to use the obvious skills, like if you're a cashier, use of barcode scanners, understanding barcodes, use credit card machines. If you're a car mechanic, change of oil and brakes, troubleshoot leakage, fix electrical issues, or if you're a nurse, use of injections or taking blood. You want to use skills that are not obvious but are relevant to the field. For example, if you are a computer programmer, then you'd want to talk about skills that you've developed on the job, which would in this case be like technical writing, component integration, project documentation, which would then show your value, but they are not obvious because a computer programmer don't necessarily have to use these things. They could have experience just writing code. Another thing that you can use as a work experience is achievements. And that is for persons who are in intensive practical jobs, like for example as a social media manager or business development officer, where you have to show a track record. So you can say the events that you've coordinated successfully. You can write campaigns as a marketer, the campaigns that you've done successfully. And if you're a business development officer, startups that you have successfully sold or funded and things like that. When you're doing achievements, do it by type. So if you have different kinds of achievements, like for example, you were a project coordinator, you coordinated so many campaigns, you're a business development officer, you want to put all the different achievements separately on the different categories and just list the experience. Even if they're in the same company, you would list the job title that you have or what you did and where you did it. So it depends on the kind of job that you're looking for and the kind of field that you're in. That would determine whether you use the title work experience, competencies, or achievements. Now, under education, you want to use education as relevant to the job, but you can also list all the education that you have had. If you've done university, you just need to stop at university. If you have done only high school, then you must include high school. It's not necessary to put the date that you graduated, but it is necessary to put the name of the university and the title of your degree. Another thing, if you did a minor, you can add it, because I've received jobs where my minor was more important than my major. And also, if you had a 2.0 GPA, you don't need to put that. That's average. But if you have a really great GPA, and I would say a really great one would be something like 3.2 upwards, closer to 4 would be great. Then I would add GPA to show that you were a good student. If you had any honors or awards, whether it's academic or professional, you can also add the special recognition, and you add that as a different section under honors and awards. Here on Caitlin's resume, she has two sort of skills. Her professional skills, and she listed all the professional skills that she has as a social media manager, and personal skills, which are the soft skills that a lot of recruiters are looking for. So she included creative spirit, reliable, professional, organized. Also, under education, if you've done any training or courses or licenses, you can also add that as well under a separate section. Certificates and licenses is what I usually like to use. It shows that you are interested in ongoing education and so forth. So Caitlin has her awards. Now where page 2 would come in is like if you have community service, you're very active in your community, or you do a lot of volunteerism, then you can add that on page 2. Also, if you're involved in a club, society, or association as a leader, you're at the board or something, then you can also add that on the leadership. So you can have a category called leadership. I do a lot of community work, and so I have both categories, leadership as well as civil service, and that's usually on my second page. And the community service is good because it shows that you care about people, you care about development, that money is not just a motivating factor for you. So it's really good to show if you do have a voluntary spirit. You show that on your resume. It's nice when you put a photo on your resume, and this is optional, so you don't have to do it. But if you do put a photo, then you don't want to use one like Caitlin, because this photograph, you can't see her face. It's more artistic than a photograph for a resume. But Rosa's photograph is very clean. It shows her face. She's smiling. Try to smile in your photograph because smiling pictures are more attractive. Her background isn't clean, but she's young. She's going into a social media profession, which is very informal, and so it doesn't take away from her application. However, if you are applying to be like a CEO or a bank manager or something, then you definitely want a cleaner background with a more professional looking photograph. She added get in touch instead of contact, and she included her landline number, her mobile, her email address. She has a website, and so she included that, and her address. So the most important thing is your cell phone number and email address, because this is how they will recruit you. They're going to call you if they have shortlisted you. Just to come back to the photograph, I know in some countries, if you are black or of a minority race, you don't necessarily want to use a photograph if you suspect that there might be a risk of discrimination. So don't add one. When I work in Europe, I don't use a photograph because my name looks very European. They often assume I'm a white person coming for the interview, and so it ensures that I did get shortlisted, even if afterwards I'm discriminated against and I don't get a job. So you have to use judgment when using your photograph. Now, of course, when I'm in the Caribbean, race is not an issue per se. It's an issue, but it's very small. And so there is no discrimination based on race for jobs that much as in certain countries like in Europe and in the United States. Use your photograph judiciously. It's not necessary. You could also use a completely different resume template that does not have any photograph. Also, and this is an issue in some countries, like in Jamaica, where you're discriminated against because of your address, then I wouldn't necessarily add an address to my resume. Sounds strange because your address is going to be on your cover letter. I use a general city. I don't use a specific address, especially if I'm coming from an address that is not necessarily good and you might get discriminated against. I would try to choose a mailing address instead rather than using my home address, or use a friend's address on the cover letter. But on your resume, you could just put the city. The most important address that they need is your email address to recruit you anyway. After they've recruited you, then they can find out where you live. some demographic information. So if it invites discrimination, use it judiciously. It's not necessary that it's on your resume. And also, you want to keep your email address very clean. You don't want an email address sexybodiediva@gmail.com. You want something professional, like rosa@gmail.com. And now you know how to write a great resume. I hope you found this video useful. If you liked this video, please feel free to share it and give it a thumbs up. See you in the next video.